person that is making them act in a certain way. And so if the person feels that you understand them, then they are more likely to listen to your advice. And actually, once in my experience, once I understand a little bit more about where the other person is coming from, then I can say things to them that can be more easily acceptable to them. So that is what I mean by a constructive dialogue.
Okay. There's another question from Sibyl Sahin. How can we speak better words when people try to manipulate you, people who have ill thinking of you?
Well, so people who are trying to manipulate you and people who are thinking ill of you, they have their own paradigm in their mind and their picture in their mind. So what we have control on is what I have control on is how I am thinking and what I am saying, right? So actually, if somebody is speaking ill of me, then or trying to manipulate me, then a good first step is not to respond, because if we respond in kind, then the negativity they are projecting actually will multiply, and you will get caught up in this loop of increasing friction. So the first thing is to not to reply and not to buy into what they are thinking. And so that is a good step. And actually, this is an experiment I have done many times, and I urge you to try it. I don't know the particular situation you are in. So once I understood the wisdom in this ayah many years ago, at that time there were many people who did not think well of me among my acquaintances. So then first I stopped responding to them, to their criticism, and I stopped talking ill of them or responding to them in the way they were talking. And secondly, I made a point to find something good about that person. It can be something small, or it can be something like, this person may be not nice towards me, but he is very good towards his children, or he has succeeded in his job. If I find something good about this person, then I speak about it when that person is not present. And so this way, this creates this positive feelings, and then sooner or later it takes time, but the other person changes and his attitude towards me changes. So I urge you to try that.
Okay. Let's move to another one. This one is a question again in the chat box from Brother Naeem. As a human layman, isn't it a bit difficult not to react or become emotional?
Yeah, so that is a very good question. So yeah, so we are human, and we have we have a tendency to react and become emotional. But actually, so one of the things I learned, or we can learn from the Quran, is that we can become better. Right, we can become better than the way we are, right? So and so this is what this ayah is asking us to do. So it was taught. It was at a time when the Arabs were fighting with each other, you know, and this ayah teaches this insight that one way to stop conflict is to stop speaking ill of people and start speaking better. So when I learned to speak better about people around me, then I have experienced this, that my relationships improved. And part of this is what you, Naeem, just referred to. So one way to gain power in relationships is not to react. Right? Not to react. That is a basic principle of wisdom that actually you can read about. I have read about in Hadith that when somebody came and was abusive toward the Prophet, peace be upon him, he did not respond. He did not react. He kept quiet. And so this is once we learn to do that, we gain great strength. So, and then we can choose to speak in a way that we want rather than be reactive. And so, yeah, so you're absolutely right. We all start out by being reactive and say, then, but it is possible to be better, and that is what teaching, or moral teaching, or religious teaching is all about, how to become a better person. A very good example of this, which I think is very easy to understand, that if somebody does something that I don't like, then one reaction can be I can lose my temper and become angry and scream at them. So I think most people agree that that does not produce harmony, whether it can be in the home or in an office or anywhere. So yeah, so if I'm angry about something, it is better to find other ways of channeling this displeasure and making things better that were upsetting me.
Okay, another one, a supplementary from Sahin. Does resentment come from responding to ill wordings? If yes, how can we avoid or deal with it?
Yeah, so yeah, resentment, like if somebody, suppose a friend comes to you and says, you know, I know such and such person, Ahmad, he was saying so many bad things about you, that you are like this, you are like that, you don't do a good job at work, you always come late, and you are like this, and so if you hear somebody speaking ill about you, then it causes resentment, and so then again, and so you then feel hurt inside, and then you have a tendency, or anybody has a tendency, to respond in kind. You say, okay, this person, he was saying this about me, so I know what he's like, and I'm going to tell you how bad he is. And so, and then suppose this is heard or gets back to the person who did the ill talking first, then it multiplies and it ruins a relationship. So again, as we were discussing a minute ago earlier, if you hear that somebody was speaking ill about you, or somebody criticizes you on your face, the most important first step is not to respond, is to stay quiet and not to get angry, not to react, but listen to what the other person is saying. Your life will not be destroyed if somebody is criticizing you. Criticizing is a very unhealthy way of communication, and so at whatever step we feel like we feel resentment, it is important to step back and say to yourself, well, yeah, so it's sad that this person was saying this about me, but I am not going to react. I don't want to be caught up in this unhealthy way of thinking.
Okay, another one. In an organization, how can we keep praising everyone with good words and accordingly or fairly evaluate their performance? Can't we have constructive criticism as well?
Evaluating a person's performance is different from how we speak about each other. Actually, I have visited many successful businesses and organizations here in the U.S. which are of international nature. So one of the first thing to notice in these organizations is how pleasant everybody is towards each other, how the top management, how well do they treat and how well do they greet all the employees, and how they work to make the life of everyone better. And everybody has this idea that the top management works very hard to help everybody understand that we are in this business together. We have a mission and we are all working towards it, right? And so, and if somebody makes a mistake, they don't criticize the person in public, for instance, or in front of others. Or and they have programs in which they top management listens to what everybody else is thinking and what is bothering them and what the employees are could be unhappy about. So they have mechanisms through which they hear what the employees of the business are doing. So this way of relating, by proactively being pleasant and kind and making sure that the people working in your organization know that you are there to help them and to help them grow as individuals, and we are all working together, and listening to them actually removes a tremendous amount of negativity from the organizations, and people are enthusiastic and motivated to do well. And then if so as this was asked in this question, yeah, so not everybody works in the best way, or not everybody behaves in the ideal way. So then, yeah, there are you can talk to this person in private and try to understand them and do what is, and then communicate with them privately on how they can do better. Try to understand what is bothering them, what is the limitation, do they need additional training, and then give them suggestions on how they can do better. And so in this way, people, your employees have a better opportunity to respond to what you want.
Okay, another one, Shaytan, how does he sow dissension? Is it possible to analyze our thoughts or to realize if we are being overshadowed by Shaytan?
Well, so that's a good question. So different people have different ideas of what Shaitan is. So, but so in the context of this ayah, it's obvious that that Shaitan is the tendency within us to look at people in less than the best way. See, everybody has many positive qualities. See, everybody is a mixture of good and bad. So the way I have a choice and the way I look at the other person, if I choose to always look at the poor quality of the other person, on their defects, then I am showing a certain tendency which is going to produce dissension. I have a choice to look at the better qualities of this person or the inferior qualities of this person. So in this way, Shaitan actually persuades us, or Shaitan is the tendency within us to look down at other people, to look to see one thing that person is doing that I don't like, and then talk about it to everybody. That is what I understand what this ayah is saying. So I will give you an example which I have seen many times and which causes a tremendous amount of difficulty in people's life. So when somebody is getting married and they are engaged, so before marriage they only look at the good, they can only see the good qualities in the person they are getting married to. So they are so excited and happy that they are getting married to this wonderful person. But 1 year after marriage, they don't see those good qualities anymore. They can only see the bad qualities in the other person, and they are continuously criticizing them for them. And so this creates tremendous dissension in the relationship. And it's very easy to remedy if we understand what this ayah is saying. This person is the same, but previously I was looking at his or her good qualities, and now I am looking at her what I think are her bad qualities.
Okay, let's move to another one, short one. What is the best conflict handling mode? Competing, accommodating, avoiding, or collaborating?
See, so can you repeat this question, Elisa?
What is the best conflict handling mode? Is it competing or accommodating, avoiding, or collaborating?
Well, you see, so by conflict here, I mean by the word conflict here, I mean the conflict or the disagreements or the fights that occur in an organization where people are working together. Like it can be in a business or in a government office or it can be in a mosque, masjid, or it can be in a family where people are together but they are like the two brothers, they are always quarreling with each other. Or in an office there are people who are make opposite camps and they are struggling with each other. So in this, I think avoiding definitely does not help, except that but actually we should work proactively to remove the conflict and to understand so we don't want to compete with people within our own family or within our own office. Instead, we want to have good relationships with them so that we can work together towards goals that are common to us. Like a company or an office will succeed if everybody works together in a harmonious way, in a healthy way for common purposes. You see, there is great power in unity. And so for that purpose, for that to occur, we have to take these steps which are outlined in this essay. That is, we first, no matter what the history is or how bad the relations have been, the first step is to stop speaking ill of the other people, or stop criticizing them or saying how bad they are or how bad they were. So once that is the first step. If we stop doing that, that removes a great deal of tension from that relationship, and then we should find ways to talk to them, and and that involves we should actually spend a lot of time to listen to what they are saying. What is bothering them? Where are they coming from? If we are working for the same company, we have the same goal. We want the product of our company to be more successful, so that all of us will have better careers. We have the same goal. So why? How come these differences arose? We spend time to listen to the other person without getting into a fight. You listen to understand the other person, to hear what their point of view is. And so it is a common experience that once you listen to the other person and try to understand them, then a lot of their hostility already disappears, and then then they are much more willing to work with us in a cooperative way.
Okay, next question. How should we deal with hypocrites? Isn't it better to highlight their behavior in public to safeguard others?
Well, so I don't know what you mean by hypocrites. Actually, nobody knows the level of sincerity in the other person unless you really get to know them. I mean, but actually speaking ill. So unless you know somebody real well and you think that this person is a conspirator working against the common good, then it is very difficult to figure out if this person is a hypocrite or not. It is much better to assume what is good about a person, or assume that this person aims to do well, and try to connect with them with that premise. See, so here I don't know what the questioner had in mind as to what a hypocrite is. Maybe he or she can clarify what a hypocrite is.
Yeah. Okay. I think yeah. If let's move to the other one, sir. I think there's another one. We have. Can we have an example for a constructive conversation from Brother Afif?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Brother Afif has asked, can we have an example for a constructive conversation?
Yes, there are many examples. So first of all, let me give, since we are here discussing an ayah of the Quran, so let me share this with you, which I think many people I'm sure they can verify. So there are many thousands of hadiths of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So when you read through them, I never hear him, I never see an example where he's condemning or criticizing any member of his family or any of his companions for the mistake they made or the wrong way they behaved. So this is because, so from this we can learn. So we cannot say that we have more difficulties than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. That is laughable. So he had much more difficulties in his life than any of us has. But you never see an example of him condemning anybody in any of his relationships, of people who are working with him or who are in his family or who are in his associated with him in his mission. So that is an example of how that is, you can see that it actually is an illustration of the wisdom of this ayah in practice. So that is actually one of the factors that contributed to the tremendous success that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam achieved through his life in spreading his mission. And so the example of a constructive dialogue is, there are, since I don't know the speaker, I can only give in general terms. So when you have a ill feeling towards someone, or somebody is criticizing you or condemning you, and they are, say, in your family, say your brother or your sister or somebody who works in the office in the next branch, then you hear that they are saying bad things about you, then the first step is not to react. So I'm describing here steps in a constructive dialogue. First step is not to react, so that and react and respond in kind. That is, not lose your temper. Don't lose your temper and say bad things about the other person to get even, because this is like throwing flame on the fire, because if you do that, the other person will respond even more, and then this will multiply. So the first thing is not to react, and second is not to blame or condemn the other person for what he or she is doing, and instead find so if you do that, then the relationship stops from getting worse, and then then you find a way of meeting this person or contacting this person and talk to them in a friendly way and say, listen, I heard that you are unhappy about some things about me, about what I did. So what is it about? So we can come to an understanding. I can explain to you where I am coming from, and I want to hear about what you are saying. So this is if you listen to the other person to say what their point of view is, and you explain to them your point of view, there may still be disagreement, but if you remove anger and using of bad words, then it results in a much more constructive result.
Okay. Another short one. How can we overcome the deficit of trust in relationships?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. How can we overcome the deficit of trust in relationships? So that's an excellent question, because actually in every relationship between any two people or in any organization, there is a reservoir of trust. So it's like a bank account. So in some bank accounts there is a lot of money, and in some accounts there is very little money. So similarly, in some relationships there is a large amount of trust already built up, and in some others there is very little trust. So in order to have a happy life or a happy relationships, it is important to continuously work to increase the level of trust with the people who are important in our lives. And we build trust by taking the initiative of being good towards the other people. Remember, I was saying to you earlier that I have visited several successful businesses here in the US and government offices, And so what do the top management does there? They are, the steps they take, like the top officers or bosses always greet everybody with a smile, shake hands. They then they make sure that and they work to make the life of everyone working in their organization as good as possible within the resources available. Then they have parties together in which everybody, whether it is the CEO or the person who delivers the mail, they all sit together and laugh and have something to eat together. Then they make sure they have discussions, or they organize sessions in which everybody participates on what the purpose of our organization is, what are we trying to accomplish, and how all of us are working together for the same purpose. And also take every opportunity to say, to praise and to say good about any good thing you notice that the other person is doing, right? So if so all of these steps actually build a reservoir of goodwill. It builds trust. It builds, so if the other person knows that I am trying to help him, then that is what results in a tremendous amount of trust. But if the other person thinks that I don't like him, I'm not trying to help him, I'm trying to put him down, then the trust disappears. So this question is excellent, because if in a relationship we proactively build trust, then ill feelings do not arise.
Okay. All right, can take a couple of more. So there's another one. How should one practice humbleness in giving orders to subordinates, given he is in an authoritative position in an organization? Any examples?
So say that again, please, Mr. Jaffrey.
How should one practice humbleness in giving orders to his subordinates, given he is in an authoritative position in an organization?
In an authoritative position. Well, so actually,
I think the brother is looking for examples. Yeah.
Yeah. So the examples are in particular situations. So I can give you an example of how a person can, in an authoritative position, can act with humility in a way that influences people. I can give you something that in my own life. So when I was a postgraduate student in a university in England, in University of Manchester in England for many years ago, and when I first joined that university, I was a student. I was a graduate student. I had a little desk, and there were in that room there were other students, and there was no telephone in the office. And one day I was working like in the evening. It was 7 o'clock. Like everybody had left, but I was there, and a couple of other students were there. Then suddenly I saw that the head of our department, who was a very famous scientist, who was a knighted scientist, Sir Brian Flowers, who was also a fellow of the Royal Society, which is the highest level of scientific recognition in England. So I saw that he came to see me. His office was on the 3rd floor, and I was here in the basement, and he came to see me. And he said, your wife is calling you. So do you want to come to my office to answer the phone? So see, my wife, she wanted to speak to me because it was 7 o'clock in the evening, and I was late. So she dialed a number in the university, and it went to the office of the head of the department. And the head of the department, he came, and who was not only just a head of a department, but a famous scientist. He came, he walked down 3 stairs, and he asked me, he told me that, look, this phone is from your wife, and you should come and answer that phone. So that is an example. So it influenced me so much that I had so much respect for this gentleman from then on, and so I hope that is an example of that you will find interesting.
Indeed, quite an interesting one. I think we have another last one, and an interesting one. What are the broader rules of communication to be maintained between husband and wife?
Well, so that's a very good question. So in terms of introduction, so when I used to, so for 6 years I worked as a counselor, as a marriage counselor in the Islamic Center in Westbury here in Long Island, and so I had an opportunity to interact with many couples, a husband and wife, who were having problems and help them get to a better state. So the rules are very actually simple to understand. See, if in a relationship, in a marriage relationship, the husband or the wife thinks, what are my rights in this relationship, and how can I get them? Then that is going to produce an unhappy marriage. If on the other hand you think, what are the rights of my wife or my husband, what are the rights of the person I am married to, and how I can make sure that they are fulfilled, how can I give more to them, how can I support them more, then that produces a happy marriage. It produces a reservoir of goodwill and produces a happy marriage. It's a very basic principle of religion that when we give first, when we give first, then we get a lot back. But if we try to take first in any relationship, if we demand favor, then we don't get any. So this is really the first rule, and it always works. So again, the difficulty here is that in different cultures, people are they grow up expecting in a different way. Like people grow up expecting that when I get married, these are my rights, and my wife should do this and this and this to satisfy me. And the wife thinks like this too. So they enter the relationship with the idea that the other person should do things for me, and that takes the relationship in the wrong direction. So we have to reverse this to have a happy marriage. We have to give first. You know, this is the basic teaching in Islam. The hand that gives is much better than the hand that receives, and the meaning of that is the person who gives first is going to receive a lot more back. So I hope I made sense.
Well, yeah, indeed. Another one, sir, I think we can take two more. Do words contain energy in it? If yes, does this mean ill words contain bad energy?
Definitely. You see, so yeah, and words do create energy. Words do have energy in them, and so it's very easy to see it is true. For instance, you can say certain things to yourself that can make you feel depressed or discouraged. You can say to yourself, well, my health is not good, my life is not getting better, I'm stuck in this job which I don't like, the government is corrupt, the weather is really bad, and things are not so good, and things are getting worse and worse and worse. You say these words to yourself and you will feel depressed. So this comes from the negative energy in the words you are speaking. If on the other hand you can say words which create hope and encouragement within yourself, you say, Alhamdulillah, I am doing so much better than before, I have a good family, I am safe, I have a nice house I live in, we have enough food to eat, and we can go out and eat in a restaurant, it is so nice. And so if you, today is such a nice weather, or my house is air conditioned, you say something that that is good in your life, and this encourages you and makes you happy, because the words that you are speaking have positive energy.
Okay. So there's another one. What is the best practice to remove bad vocabulary words from your thoughts?
Yeah, so that is a very good question, and that is really the fundamental to really working on the advice given in the ayah we are discussing. So there are many ways of doing it, but I can give you something that I did many years ago that helped me a lot. So like in the evening, make some time for yourself, say 15 minutes, and think back and remember the bad words or the ill words or the negative words you used many times today to describe yourself or somebody else. And write that sentence down, and then replace that sentence by something better, by something good, right? So and then do it. Let's say do it with 3 sentences every day. Remember the three sentences you said today that you know are negative and unhappy or not the best, and then replace them or write another sentence which describes the same situation in a better way. So, for instance, suppose I said to my wife, well, our son is really stupid. He's very lazy. He doesn't do anything all day, right? So instead I say to myself, so I could notice that I said to myself, well, my son is growing up and he's trying to still understand how life works, so I will help him do better, right? So this is like replace one sentence by another, and then I will write another sentence which I spoke in a negative way, and then write its replacement. And so this way you have an upper you remember the negative words you are speaking, and you replace them with good words, and you do that for a period of time, like for a month. You will see that you will have eliminated a lot of negative words that you are used to speaking habitually.
Brilliant.
Did I make sense?
Yes, sir. Indeed.
I think it's so I will say something else here. You see, this is a very good question, because it really goes to the root of what we should do to correct ourselves.
Yeah.
Another way is just to sit quietly and think about the words that are going through your mind. See, contemplation or sitting in silence and noticing the words that are going through your mind or the pictures you are seeing makes you aware of the negativity that is present in your thinking. And once you become aware, then you can work to replace it.
Okay. I'm just going to take one last question before we conclude, sir. How do you inject this practice in children?
Well, so that's a very good question. You inject this practice in children. There is only one way of doing it, and that is by being a good role model. See, children most of the time, they copy the behavior and speaking patterns of their parents. So actually, I learned to speak in a certain way because of the way people like my father and mother used to speak, and so does everybody else. And until it gets modified when the children go to school and they hear other people talking different ways in school. So we have a tremendous influence on our children, but the best way is to act in a way that we would like them to act. So if I always speak in a good way, then my children would learn to speak in a good way too. It does not work if I just instruct them to speak well, and because they don't, most like children when they are above the age of 14, they don't take advice very easily. So the best way is to be a role model.
Okay. There's another interesting one, sir. I'm just going to take this and we'll conclude.
Please.
Action speaks louder than words. what is the best action one should adopt during a time of anger?
Well, the best action in time to adapt, actually there is a hadith about this also that you may be aware of, that that when the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, well, if you are angry, then sit down. Like if you're standing up, sit down, right? So like if you feel that you are angry, then you are in a certain emotional state when you feel out of control. It is the most important thing at that stage is not to let that anger rule your behavior, and so you interrupt this state one way or the other. Like in this hadith, the advice is that you sit down, but you can do other things. You can walk out of the room, or you can have a cup of water to drink, or turn the television, or do something so that to get out of this state of anger. Do something practical to get out of the state of anger so that you have an opportunity to cool down, right? And so when you cool down, then you will be able to think better about, to analyze what the situation is. So the hadith of the Prophet that I cited is very, very profound, and it is taught, something like this is taught in anger management classes now here in the US. So they teach you to interrupt your pattern. So like or interrupt your state. So when you are angry, you are in a certain boiling state, you are feeling out of control. So you have to do something, anything to get out of that state. So you do something which is different. Go walk out of the house and walk for 5 minutes, or go to a different room and sit quietly, or have a drink of water.
Okay. And just an interesting supplementary to the same question, I think I can take this, that the question is, in another era of social media, how can you avoid not to react during text chats basically, or emails?
Well, so this is a very good question. So a lot of people and I know are in trouble because they respond to chat, text, or email quickly, and not thinking about it. See, so there are many stories about this in the newspapers here or on television. So see, when you receive an email or a chat of any kind, it is important to develop this habit to not to respond to it right away if it has any emotional or content. See, because whatever you write in an email, actually it stays there forever. It becomes part of the record, and it cannot be eliminated. So it is important actually it is not only in personal relationships, but also in terms of your work and how you respond to your colleagues. When you receive an important email, when you receive an email that has significant content, it is important not to respond to it right away, but to think about it until you can think of a better answer. And if there is a chat text that is annoying to you, you ask yourself if it is of any significance, or maybe it is just somebody gossiping, or you figure out what it is, and then you take time to respond to it or not respond to it.
Excellent. Well, sir, that really brings us towards the end of the webinar. I would like to thank you, Dr. Sultan Hameed, on behalf of MILE, for your time and willingness to share your valuable information and experiences with our participants. And thank you for making it quite an interactive session for everyone. So thank you very much, Dr. Sultan. And,
thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you to all of you who participated. We're glad to join us today and hope this session was helpful for you. We will be emailing you the link to a recorded version of this webinar in a couple of days once it's updated on our YouTube channel and blog. But meanwhile, you can always visit www.mile.org to get more details about our upcoming programs and webinars. Once again, thank you very much, and I'm going to close this webinar, so you will all be automatically dismissed out. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.